Hello, welcome to Menacing MTG. Today we have a Dimir deck, and this thing is going to drive opponents absolutely crazy. I know that personally I hate playing against mill decks. I hate the Ruin Crab. I just hate playing against them. It just, you know, it mill is a component of Magic that is appropriate, but to have a deck like the mono blue mill deck just drives me crazy. It just doesn't feel like you're playing against somebody who's playing Magic. But I love mono black discard decks. Honestly, I love those because you eventually empty a hand of an opponent, and then you can do periodic damage to them and wear them down. Now that feels a little more tactical, but so I had this idea to incorporate components of mill and um, discard together. And I do have two Ruin Crab in this deck, and I feel a tiny bit guilty about that, but really the mill that I have in this deck can't get the job done alone for sure. Um, but the combination of the mill and discard in this deck has to be demoralizing for an opponent. Um, so there's not enough discard in this deck either to really get it done. So those two components work together with some strategically placed creatures and planeswalkers to get the job done. And it just, you can feel the pain of the opponent as you play. So I'm going to show you how this works. So first of all, we have two Merfolk Windrobber, a one drop, 1/1 flyer, which is plenty by itself, but when he deals combat damage to a player, that player mills a card. Sacrifice Windrobber and draw a card. Can activate that only if the opponent has 8 or more cards in their graveyard. Okay, so there's two of those in there. There is a slew of one drops here, and then there's um, a reasonable amount of two drops, and then there is several three drops, and then there's several four drops, and I don't think there's anything beyond that. So the Wind Robber, you're hoping to get him out early. Two Ruin Crab. Whenever you bring a land on the board and there's one of these on the board, opponent mills 3 cards. Okay, and so again, the Wind Robber, when he deals damage to a player, they mill a card. So 3 cards for Ruin Crab, there's 2 of them. I have 1 Stern Dismissal thrown in here just for good measure because you can be playing against an opponent that has an enchantment that is beating you up. In this, you can return either a creature or an enchantment to their hand, so slowing down the progress of the opponent for a single 1 drop. 1 Blood Chief's Thirst, again, a great card to have pop up at a certain time because you can kick this and kill any planeswalker or any creature. Or you can use it for its 1 drop and kill a creature or planeswalker with a converted mana cost of 2 or less. 4 Thieves Guild Enforcer. 1/1 drop. When he enters another rogue, whenever another rogue enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent mills 2 cards. There's a lot of rogues in here. It's not a strict rogue deck at all, though. But there is a lot of rogues in here. As long as the opponent has 8 or more cards in their graveyard, the Enforcer gets +2/+1 in Death Touch, okay? So this is a good card to get on early. There's 4 of them because every rogue that enters, there's going to be milling going on. 4 Vicious Rumors. Okay, this is, I think, an underrated card. I have long used it. What it does is it deals 1 damage to each opponent, and each opponent discards a card, then mills a card, and you gain 1 life. So even if the opponent is has an empty hand, and you throw this up there, they lose a life, you gain a life, and they mill a card. So great card for this deck in particular, but also good in discard decks. Village Rites, 2 of these in here, so you can sack something, a small creature and draw 2 cards. Say they're going to use a murder or something to destroy one of your creatures. You zip in there, you sack it instead and draw 2 cards. 1 drop, awesome card. 4 acquisitions expert. Okay, this is a rogue, and not only that, but it has it's a 1/2 2 drop, and when you bring it on, essentially in this deck, because there's no other party members than rogues in this deck. But when you bring it on, the player chooses one of their cards and discards it. So 4 of them in here. 1 Tiny Bones Trinket Thief. This is another avenue to victory. So you can empty a opponent's deck with this deck reasonably easy. And if you get Tiny Bones on the board and they have an empty hand, you can pay 6 mana and that opponent loses 10 lives. Okay. Additionally, at the beginning of each end step, if the opponent discarded a card this turn, you draw 1 card and lose life. So more card draw. Soaring Thought Thief, a rogue, a flyer. You're going to see increasingly we have flyers coming on here. So this is a 1/3 flyer, comes on for 1 blue, 1 black, and it can also flash it on. So you can kill a small creature coming in or whatever. But as long as an opponent has 8 or more cards in their graveyard, rogues you control get +1/+0. And there's quite a few rogues in this deck. Whenever 1 or more rogues you control attacks, each opponent mills 2 cards. So kind of a mill amplifying machine here. All right, 4 of them. 4 Davriel Rogue Shadow Mage. This is a huge card, a 3-drop Planeswalker. 4 of them in the deck again. Can't say that enough. At the beginning of each opponent's turn, if that player has 1 or fewer cards in hand, Davriel deals 2 damage to them. Additionally, it's -1. It forces the target player to discard a card. Okay, so you can do that 3 times. After the 3rd time he dies and you don't get the core benefit of 2 damage when there's 1 or fewer cards in hand, but there's 4 of them in the deck. So oftentimes there are times in games when 4 of these are in your deck that you can be playing one and you use its ability a 3rd time and it goes away and you throw a new one on the board and do it again. Mill again, not mill, but force discard again, then he continues to do 2 damage. You can't have 2 of these on the board at once, of course, because it's legendary. 2 Hypnotic Spectre. So this is a 2/2 flyer for 3-drop. And whenever he deals damage to an opponent, that player discards a card at random. Okay, just one of those things. If you have a deck you're going against that has a lot of card draw, this can keep emptying things, and they don't get say over what's being emptied. It's random. So we have 2 of those. Also a flyer. Murderous Rider, have 1 of these in here. Another safety valve like Bloodchief's Thirst. There's not many of them in here. Removal spells. Can destroy target creature or planeswalker, and you lose 2 life. It also is a creature that has lifelink and is a 2/3. 2 Nighthawk Scavengers. Okay, this is a rogue, and it is a flying Death Touch lifelink rogue. And it gets bigger with the number of card types in your opponent's graveyard. So it's a 1, and then it gets +1 for every card type in the opponent's graveyard. So this is a potent creature, keeps big creatures from coming in, and and it benefits from all the rogue goodies like milling and +1/+0. So then we have 1 Jason here. And if you're going up against a mill deck, like a pure mill deck, this can save you because you get this on the board and you can use its alt and draw 7 cards. But that's less likely because to get it up to 8 takes time. But if you would draw a card while your library has no cards in it, you win the game. So this is kind of an insurance policy against mill decks. But more importantly, it's a great card to get on the board in this deck because you can use its +1 ability to mill 2 cards and draw a card yourself. So, yeah, this is a good, perfect card for this deck. I don't really see the need for more than one because I think it's got enough going on between the mill and the discard. Here's the last bastion of removal. 2 extinction events, kind of emergency cards. We're leveling the playing field. If you watched uh, many of my decks, you'll have heard that phrase from me. The extinction event does just that. It's kind of a selective board wipe. You can take some of your creatures off, but you have to weigh, does it make sense to play this? Is it going to put me in a better position than the opponent if I play it? You can choose to remove all odd or all even creatures. 1 Nightvale Predator, like Nighthawk Scavenger, this thing is a vicious body in the blocking world. Flying, death touch, hexproof. Okay, he can only be removed by sweeps. Yeah, he is a 4-drop. There's not many 4-drops in here. I wouldn't mind a sleep in here, but I just wanted to keep the focus. And this is, like the 2 Nighthawk Scavengers, it provides us with blockers that nobody wants to mess with. All right, now the lands. 1 Castle Lock land for card draw, 8 Swamp, 7 Islands, 1 Clearwater Pathway, 1 Drowned Catacomb, 1 Temple of Deceit, and 3 Fabled Passage. Now, this is not a budget deck, but it is not terribly pricey. These are what would break your back if you don't have these, because there's 4 of them in here. Otherwise, it's lands. This is a mythic rare card, the Tiny Bones. Hypnotic Spectre is rare. Murderous Rider's rare. The Scavenger's rare. Jace is rare. Extinction Event is rare. The Predator is not, but we have some lands here that are also the Clearwater Pathway, the Drowned Catacomb, the Temple of Deceit, and 3 Fabled Passages. 6 of the lands are rare, as is the Lochthwain, so 7 of them. There's a lot of rare cards and 1 mythic rare card in here. You could build a version of this deck without them, or with fewer of them, and it'd be close to as effective. So that's the deck. It's pretty cool. I'm going to play a few games. Okay, here we are, first game, opening hand. Not loving this hand, but it's got a lot of good stuff. We got a slow black mana here. I probably would have mulliganed it, but I have the crab and a blue mana to go, so I'm going to go ahead and put that on right away. And then I can bring in the castle, and I won't be able to play anything else, but it'll mill 3 cards. And we'll hope for more lands. The next turn I can bring on Soaring Thought Thief. Or remove something if I feel it's important. I won't remove that. So right now all we get to do is this. So the milling has begun. Now this deck we're playing against has more than 60 cards in it. Let's do the math here. 3 there, 52, 55, 56, 57, and 7. It's a 64 card deck. So a tiny bit harder to mill. But nobody likes to see the Ruin Crab come out early in the game. So I cannot block that because this is giving it a bump, and it's tempting me to remove this just because we're going to lose a lot of life fast. So I think I am going to go ahead and use the Blood Chief to remove that. Because every knight that comes on the board would have +1/+1. No attacks, and I need some land, folks. I can play the Soaring Thought Thief next turn, but I really do need some land. So this is good because I can just keep blocking these, and the Soaring Thought Thief can block. So I got another one of those. That's a consolation prize. I'm going to bring this one, but what I'll probably bring next time rather than the other one is the Acquisitions Expert to try to get a card out of his hand. I could, if I got a life next turn, that would be absolutely brilliant. Not a life, a land, because well, now we got a problem. We don't have a blocker for that. We're going to have to let 3 damage in here. Okay, yeah, we have a bit of a problem, more than a bit. I'm going to try to get a card out of their hand here. We will. And he'll be the blocker. He is a guy I can sack for that cause, and we get rid of a Murderous Rider. That's pretty good. They must have something. Well, he didn't have. He has 1 black, so he couldn't play him. I need a land and need to get Davriel on, and then we have a problem here. This is the weakness of this deck, is that can't handle big creatures. So we need some land. This is absolutely absurd. So we're going to do the same thing. We are going to ditch a card from his hand, but we are not really accomplishing our goal of milling adequately here. You know, we've drawn 12 cards and only 2 lands. Get rid of Ebon Legion. Yeah, that's all good, but they have big stuff. So we now have this as a blocker. Okay, yeah, this is going from bad to worse. We need land, then we need Extinction Event, as our life total is drooping painfully. Yeah, and we're screwed here. We're going to lose this game as a result of just not having any land. 13 cards drawn. Well, that just happens sometimes. And unfortunately, with this deck, you just can't afford it. And you can get by with some small creatures, but nope, it says run amok. Okay, so we can block this. And we will have to give up the crab here and block this. But the game is over because I could play an Extinction Event. That would clear everything but the small one, but I don't have anything, so it's all over. So that's an absolute failure here in our first game. Picking this game up here on the 5th turn, the opponent went first. I'm at a disadvantage for certain here. We've got some big creatures that are heading to the graveyard, and they don't seem to mind one bit. So we've got black, green, and red, and we even have white in here. So, and blue. Looks like 5 color, perhaps. So I'll come in with the flyer, and I'll be willing to sacrifice the Acquisitions Expert. This also was a larger deck than the original deck. Okay, ouch. Alright, so I think we got to bring the Scavenger up. He's big and scary at this point, and hope that they don't have more removal. Appears not. 2 cards in hand. Okay, this is great news because it means that I can bring up Soaring Thought Thief, so the Nighthawk Scavenger coming in at a 7 gets to mill a couple cards. They're finally below us here. We have another scavenger in hand here. We have the village rights prepared to take something off the board if they're going to remove, so we can get some card draw. We lost Davriel very early. Okay, and here's what we got. And that's scary, so I'm going to need a land so that I can remove that with... I need a land so I can remove that with Extinction Event. Unfortunately, this guy is a 3 and I'll lose him too, but I'm going to go ahead and take, believe it or not, he's got lifelink on him. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and take this off the board, believe it or not. And we did get land, and it is fat. Oh, shoot. Yeah, we need to survive here. Okay. So I can remove him, but you know, this is a scary card and he's going to have more. Now Ruin Crab comes up, but that's not going to help us. So we got an odd mana creature here. He's gone. Meanwhile, that hurt. So it'd be really awesome if I could get a land draw this turn. I do have nice things in my hand. I would love to get another Davriel. Yep, here we go again. So we got a big problem here. They apparently have a lot of these unbreakable bonds. You can come right in. He's got lifelink. Outrageous. Okay, we did get land, so the question is, okay, we're going to go ahead and put the crab up. And we're going to put blue mana down. Mills 3. And we're going to go ahead and bring on Nighthawk Scavenger as a blocker. And hoping he doesn't have any more unbreakable bonds. 2 down. He's looking for one. He has 2 in his graveyard. He's looking hard for an unbreakable bond. I can guarantee it because he knows he's got a bit of a quandary here, although he's got tons of life. But he is milling himself as well. Oh boy, and he just keeps it rolling. And now he's tapped out all his mana. Will he use Kolga? I don't think so. Okay, he does not. So we have a land. We'll mill some. Get rid of an unbreakable bond. I did. I got one. That's terrific. So that's 3. So he's only got 1 left in the deck, most likely. So I'm just doing a count here. I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I can bring on both the Thought Soaring Thief and the Jace, and I can have them mill a few more cards here. Okay, I get a Wind Robber, which is great, and I'm going to come in here. That mills a few more cards. He's suddenly down to 20. Terror of the Peaks. Good Lord, I hope he doesn't have a creature. He's coming in. We're going to let him come in. No blocks. Okay. Let's see what we got here. We can make him ditch the card in hand. We can put up the Wind Robber and Tiny Bones. So he's empty-handed at this point. We'll hit him with Jace for 2 more. He's down to 16. Oh, and I get a Thieves Guild Enforcer. That's awesome. Blood for Bones. Got rid of that. Excellent. Another return card. He's down to 14 cards. And I'm tempted to come right in with Nighthawk Scavenger, because if he puts a creature on the board, he's going to kill it. And I'm going to do it. And that'll mill a few cards. Another Blood for Bones gone. 12 cards. This is a really great game. There's no way he's going to block. But it does put me up to 18 life. And the longer I last, the better my odds are here. I've got blockers for Terror of the Peaks. I've got blockers with Death Touch for Kolga. Not in terrible shape. The great fear is that he brings out another Dracuseth or something. Or okay. So he's going to put up a beast on the board, which he'll be able to do 3 damage and destroy Nighthawk Scavenger.
Diversity is our greatest strength.
He also can get rid of Ruin Crab. He has a bit of a dilemma. He's down to 10 cards. And he's going for Soaring Thought Thief. That's a total surprise. Leaves me with a blocker, though, for him. So I do have 17 life. I am going to come in with the Scavenger again. And he is empty-handed. So he could come with all that stuff, but I'm going to kill Kolga. I mean, I'm not going to try to win this game by conventional means of depleting his life here. I'm looking to empty his deck. I've got his hand empty. That's another goal of mine. Should I let him take out Jace? And I'm tempted to do so because I'm going to let him kill Jace, I think. Yeah, I'm going to let him do it. Okay, that means I can come in with Nighthawk. Alright, so I'll put the land up. That's great. He mills 3 cards. He's down to 8. And now I bring on Guild Thieves Enforcers. That's gonna... There's 2 of them now. We're milling and milling. He's down to 4 cards. So his coming in will mill a card. His coming in will not mill a card. But here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and play this stunt on him. Make him worry about his life total. And I'm going to come in with the Scavenger, and I'm going to take off the Planeswalker. And it'll give me 6 life, and I still have a flying blocker. So he's down, and he gives up. He is done there. Okay, he sees the handwriting on the wall as I'd be able to do Tiny Bones again next turn. And this is what I'm talking about with multiple avenues to victory is Tiny Bones, that one card thrown in there, this late game thing. He's on the board. The deck has done its job. It's emptied their hand with discard. It's milled enough to get them in trouble. So they're worried about all these things, and Tiny Bones comes in and can play his ability, and they lose 10 life. And suddenly, they had 23, and we had somewhere in the low teens, and suddenly they're down to 13, and that's another concern of theirs. And it becomes insurmountable. They've only got 2 or 3 cards left in their deck. I've just bumped my land up to 23. I had too many things going on for them. The guild cards had Death Touch on them, keeping Kolga at bay, who had life link. So they just were screwed. And there's the deck, and I hope you enjoyed watching this. Please subscribe, leave feedback. Uh, I enjoy making these decks. Have a great day.